We've asked for your questions during the registration process, and throughout the presentation, you'll see a slide similar to this one with them listed there. We did get some duplicate or similar questions, so you'll see all of those, but we did our best to incorporate all of the questions that we got into the presentation. So if you've submitted one, hopefully you're going to see your name up there and your question. We do want to make sure that we are answering all of the questions that you have. So if more questions pop into your mind as we're going through our presentation, as Vanessa said, please use that chat and Q&A section on the right-hand side. Seeing that interaction from you helps us know that the information that we're providing and that we're sharing to you is indeed useful and helpful to you. So I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Hagar, and we'll start with our first question.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Vanessa. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Logical Operations, for the invitation. It's definitely busy times for us here at Axelos, and especially for ITIL, which is the main product that I manage in our portfolio, but definitely exciting times as well. So I hope this presentation will answer questions that you have around ITIL 4, and we are all really excited with the launch that is coming.
Great. And if you're able to advance the slides on your end, Hagar, you should have control.
Okay. Actually, I don't think I do. I cannot change the slide.
Okay. No problem. We'll take control back and make sure we can move the slides forward. Here we go.
So our first question is a basic one and a good one to make sure that we cover. What is the purpose of ITIL? What brought it about?
Okay, that's very interesting, and I can make a mix of the purpose of ITIL as it was before and how it's evolving now. So a little bit of Axelos. I don't know if anyone is familiar with us, but we are a joint venture between the Cabinet Office, which is part of the UK government, and Capita, a private company. And we manage and develop a series of global best practices. So ITIL is part of our portfolio, and definitely the main adopted, let's say, framework in the world among our best practices. So ITIL has been created basically to support organizations and professionals and to provide and obtain value from IT and digital enabled services. So in other words, it provides like practical guidance on processes, on how to adapt practices and apply. For those, you could be a service provider, you could be a service consumer. So the main thing for IT would be how do you put in practice all the process and practice for you to get value out from your IT services. In terms of how this is evolving, which is part of the purpose of ITIL 4 as well, we want to make sure that this purpose is expanded and reflects the changes that we're seeing in the past years. So all these new ways of working, all the new technologies and how they are disrupting the way that businesses around the world and across industries, they work, and how IT itself is becoming something more and more important, sometimes even leading the business strategy. So the purpose would be around this. How do you make sure you have a framework in place that will help companies and professionals to provide value, doesn't matter the type of services or products that they are offering to their clients?
Hagar, we had a question pop up already. Someone wanted to know what percentage of companies in the world have adopted ITIL.
Yeah, we have some interesting data on that. So 90% of the 500 Fortune companies in the world, they adopt ITIL in some way. And when we say adopt ITIL, ITIL is not prescriptive at all. So it's more like it's a framework, and what does it work in your business for your customers in the type of services and products that you offer. So as I said, like 90% of the 500 Fortune companies, they adopt and adopt some part of ITIL on their day-to-day businesses.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm seeing this slide about the certifications, which is an interesting as one. I don't know if everyone is familiar with all the levels and all the certifications that we have around ITIL. So obviously the most popular one is the ITIL Foundation level, but we also have the ITIL Practitioner, which is the most recent product, let's say, within the ITIL framework, which focuses more on the practical application of the concepts. And this has been launched in 2016, so a recent product. And then we have the ITIL Intermediates that are really, really popular as well. So these would be more practical guidance around how do you do service management in practice, and how do you apply processes across the whole life cycle. And when we say life cycle, we are talking about all the stages that you have on the IT service management. So starting with service strategy, design, transition, operations, and the continual improvement, which is an element that should be happening throughout the life cycle. We also have the service capability, which has a strong focus on the processes itself. So it provides guidance on how to put in practice all these concepts that you learn within the framework. And then we have the ITIL Expert and the ITIL Master as well as part of the certifications. So this is the current scheme, how ITIL is structured currently. And during the presentation, I will also cover how this is evolving within the update of ITIL 4.
Great, thank you. Another question that came in, is there a hierarchy or a level within the practitioner certification?
So in terms of what is the logical flow or the hierarchy, obviously foundation is the entry level for the certifications. And once someone has completed foundation, either practitioner or the intermediate level, they would be the next step depending on what your objectives. So as I said, the practitioner provides a lot of practical application knowledge. It's very useful for those who are on the business, who are like delivering services and IT operations. And the intermediate ones, they would be focusing on very specific areas on each life cycle or on each processes within the life cycle. So we are talking, for example, on service operations, we are going to talk about SLAs and this kind of guidance, let's say.
Great, thank you. Another question was, why do I need to get certified in ITIL Foundation? A lot of it sounds like common sense.
Yeah, ITIL Foundation sets the basis for the framework. So all the key concepts, all the key definitions about service management will be covered in Foundation. So it's the ideal first step to make sure that these concepts are covered and the professional understands what is service management and how IT service management fits within this area. So Foundation definitely has a lot of value in terms of establishing these concepts. And we have here a slide about the value of ITIL in practice. So in our website, in axelos.com, we have a series of case studies of companies who have applied and who use the ITIL framework for their businesses. And for example, here we have some numbers about improving customer satisfaction on JP Morgan by using the framework, by applying the framework, and also about reducing the time for solving critical incidents from Visa and Capital One. So Foundation would be these key concepts and the fundamentals of the framework. So how it's structured and how it could be adapted and adopted to each kind of business and products and services that depending on the company, on the organization. Yeah, here more data. We've covered the Fortune 500 companies as well, and we have up to date. I checked my my data department today. 2.5 million plus practitioners using and being certified in ITIL. So it's the largest ITSM framework adopted all over the world.
Great.
A little bit about the importance of IT service management. So the concepts within the framework, they can be expanded to service management in general. And obviously there is a lot of focus on IT, how IT plays a key role on service management, especially in the moment, in the world that we live. So how IT and technologies in general, they've been disrupting and they've been like changing business completely and industries. And we had some interesting data from an insight survey from Forbes when 80% of the IT executives, they said that ITSM is important to their digital transformation efforts because you need a framework in place, you need some solid practices and processes in place to make sure you can navigate on this journey, which is the digital transformation. The technology and everything that we have, all these new ways of work, they are so disruptive that you benefit from having a framework, a solid framework in place to help you navigate from this digital transformation journey. And we also did our own research. Sorry if we can go back to the other slide. There is this research from our research program, recent data as well, that ITIL is becoming more and more important to enable new technologies and strategies like cloud and big data. So how do you process all the information that we have currently in order to take decisions on prioritizing your incidents and problems, for example, how technologies like automation, new ways of automating your process are impacting and are also benefiting from this large amount of information that we have currently in the world.
Great, thank you. So our next question from Jessica was, why does ITIL even need to be updated?
Well, I think the main point here is how I've mentioned that already, how this new world is changing so rapidly because of the innovations, because of this technology that are disrupting business and industries. So we have new practices emerging like DevOps, Lean, Agile. We have new technologies, Internet of Things, automation, which is changing completely the IT service management world as well, and cloud computing. So how do you reflect this on ITIL? And this is one of the big things about ITIL 4. It's to update the framework, make sure that all these new ways of work, they are reflected on the framework and they can work together with ITIL on different businesses and different industries as well. We did some research on the ITSM challenges, so what we are facing, what we are seeing on the market currently. One of the things that we've discussed here is the new frameworks and practices. So we have new ways of doing things and practice being adopted by companies and businesses. And we need practical guidance for these new ways of work as well. And how we combine these with what is proven and is best practice, like ITIL, for example. ITIL has been there for over 30 decades. It has been evolving version after version, and ITIL 4 is the version where we want to address all these new ways of working as well. And one of the things also from these ITSM challenges that is key in ITIL 4 is the customer value and customer experience, because in the original versions, like back on the days, we used to consider value as something that was provided by the service provider, but we know how important is the role of the customer on this value creation, because it's not something that is created from one side only. If you don't have the customer validating what is value, if the customer is not there at the edge of the value chain, saying, okay, I perceive this as a valuable service or as a valuable product, then you have not created value. So this is something that a lot of companies, they have changed already, or they are on the way to change the way that they perceive this value creation. And this is also something that it's at the core of ITIL. I don't know if you are familiar with this term, the fourth industrial revolution, which is the era that we are facing right now, where we're living in, which is basically where you combine all the technology, all the new ways of doing things, how these things are disrupting the way that we are used to work and to live, with the physical and biological spheres. So how humans are interacting with these technologies and how this is impacting the world we live in, not only businesses, but everything, basically. So here we say we need solid foundations because, as I said, world is evolving. You have proven something that has been proven best practice, new ways of doing things. How can you combine both worlds? How can you make both things work together? And how can you benefit from what works for you as a starting point? And how can you incorporate all these new ways of doing things and technologies as well? And ITIL 4 is the answer for this, is the evolution of the current framework. So it's evolving from what has worked and what still work in terms of concepts and definitions of what is service management, what is IT service management, but also evolving to reflect the new ways of doing things. In terms of guidelines, so we have used a few guidelines in our development process for ITIL 4. One thing that we wanted to make sure that the new framework is as So by being modular, we mean it's a framework that it's easier to update. It's not like a publication as the previous versions, where you need another new publication to make sure you are reflecting what is happening outside there. So the new framework, it's modular, and there is supplementary content as well, which supports this framework, and therefore it enables more frequent updates. We also made sure that the new framework, it's lean, so we are eliminating unnecessary content. We have core elements for each one, the core modules, and we have supplementary content around that provides practical guidance and that covers new ways of doing things, new practices and emerging technologies as well. It's definitely practical, so we have a very strong element in the new framework offering practical guidance. So how do you put in practice all the concepts? How do you make sure that new ways of working can be combined with the main framework, with ITIL? And we offer templates and other kinds of resources for practitioners. Evolutional as well, in the way that there is a lot of good things on the current framework, a lot of good things and proven things that have worked and still work. So it's an evolution from the current one. We are keeping the core elements from IT service management and then building up on those in order to provide something even better. Collaborative, the update itself and ITIL 4 has been built on collaboration in the IT community. So I will present some data, but we have involved a large amount of people around the world, from end users to SMEs, from IT companies to other sectors that are also feeling this disruption and are also learning so many lessons about this new world that we're living in. So it was definitely like a collaboration, very strong collaboration between different people around the world to make ITIL 4 to happen. And flexible, as I said, the idea is to make it very clear and explicit that you can combine a series of different practices, because there is some misconception sometimes from companies or professionals when I've been asked so many times, like, should I use ITIL, should I use DevOps? And actually you could combine different practices and different ways of working depending on your business, depending on what makes sense to you. So with the new framework, we want to make very explicit this flexibility, and also provide guidance on how can you adopt and adapt what works best for your business from the various practices and ways of working that we have out there.
So Hagar, when you talk about it being more modular now for ITIL 4, what does that mean for the different books in the library that exist now?
Yeah, I think the key change here, we have core publications as well, with core elements of the framework, and then we have supplementary content that will support and will reflect topics that are happening, or new ways or new technologies that will come, and we can always make these updates more frequent, so it's easier for you to reflect the changes, and it's more useful for the end users in terms of guidance, because it's not something that you depend on a publication, on a physical publication. Instead, it's something that you have resources from various sites to provide the support you need on your day-to-day job.
So should we expect that there would be more revisions or updates to ITIL 4 than had been traditionally done with the V3? Oh, Hagar, did we lose you? Oh, I think we might have. Hagar, I think we've lost your audio. There we go.
There you are.
Yeah, we lost your audio there for a minute. Would you mind repeating? Oh, it's coming in and out, I guess. Hagar? Sorry, everyone. This is what happens when you're in two different continents doing a webinar together. Sometimes we have some audio issues.
Looks like he's still connected, so we'll wait.
We'll just give him a minute. Hagar, are you back? I keep hearing a voice.
Yeah.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll keep holding on just a second.
Yeah.
He's still connected, but we clearly can't hear him.
Yeah. In the meantime, we do have a couple questions about people wanting to know if this will be recorded. We are recording this, and we'll share a copy of the slides.
Hagar, are you back? Hello?
I'm back. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh,
great.
Okay.
You're back.
The world's rejoicing. So you cut out right before you had answered were addressing the question that I posed about updates and revisions happening maybe more quickly than they did in the V3. Would that be something we should expect?
Yeah, that's right. So we have, as I was explaining, we have a key element on the new structure of ITIL, the framework, and the certifications as well, which is the supplementary content that will play a key role on feeding back the challenges that organizations and professionals are facing within the market, and being created and being designed to reflect the framework. So we don't rely only on a core publication as it was the case on the previous versions, but we have like a much more flexible and agile framework to reflect all the challenges that are happening in the market.
Great, thank you.
Here, just some information about the ITIL 4 Global Architecture team. So this is the team leading the work of updating the framework. We have over 150 experts from 42 different countries. So a lot of expertise and knowledge on the industry from different parts of the world. I've mentioned the community before and the collaboration, which is a key part and element of this work of updating ITIL. So it's an initiative that is community driven. We have currently, as we speak, over 2,000 members that are part of our ITIL research and development group who have provided inputs during the stages of the development for foundation and now for the further levels that we are developing as well. So this group, they've been provided with newsletter. We did a lot of surveys with them as well. The group was composed from various people, so they could be end users, they could be professionals, they could be SMEs, they could be trainers. So it was a very mixed group in terms of knowledge and location as well. We had over 150 SMEs assigned to this project as well. We have had more than 30 sessions with end users, which is the same as 100 hours of work in order to test concepts and get some feedback about very specific parts of the structure and the topics that we're planning to cover. So a lot of interesting input and a lot of testing as well during this whole process. We also had some alpha sessions this year, testing the guidance itself, the concepts, exams as well. So it was a very, very long process to make sure that we have a great framework and that this framework truly reflects the challenges and the needs that we have across the globe and across industries. Yeah, so as I said, all these sources of feedback and inputs, they were key for the development and the update of the framework.
So by far the most popular question we got, which I think is why everyone is here and listening to our webinar today, is they want to know what's going to be different and new or major changes within ITIL 4.
Yeah, I'll do my best to these questions before the launch of the product, but so yeah, to give you some context and background. So what we have found during this stage of development of ITIL 4 and this stage of like talking to the community, talking to SMEs, talking to people across the globe, is that the fundamentals of service management, they are important today as they were before, as ever actually, more than they were before. So we have fundamentals of ITIL framework that they will still be there because they remain important for companies, for professionals. On the other hand, we need this evolving and practical guidance on how do you actually put in practice and you apply all the new technologies, all the new ways of working, how this can talk together and how this can be linked to the fundamentals of service management. This is something that is different, I think, from the current framework, because people always said we need explicit guidance and practical guidance on how these things can work together. We have several examples, even in our website, again, like case studies and white papers, for example, on how ITIL work together with DevOps, how ITIL work together with IT for IT, Kanban, and a series of different practices and methodologies. But people always said, like, we want to see this explicit, we want like practical guidance and want to know how to put in practice. So this is definitely one of the key differences. The people element, you know that ITIL is very process based. The people element is there as well, but it's very process based, and this is something that will be more explicit as well on the update on the new framework. So ITIL 4 will have these elements of culture and mindset of an organization. Some of these elements, for those who are familiar with ITIL practitioner, you will recognize the guiding principles as a core element for ITIL 4 and something that we will be discussing from the foundation level already. So it's something that is being taken really at the core of ITIL 4, and I think it's really healthy to expand this vision as well and add this element that is so important for creating value and for providing like services and products across the industries. And the customer value, I've covered this before as well. So customer value must be at the heart of everything we do. It's not the last element of the value chain. Actually, the customer value must be considered in every stage, like from design, customer experience, all these aspects and elements and needs that you need to consider throughout the design and then the delivery of a service of or a product. So ITIL is evolving, and these are key things that we are updating on ITIL 4. So we have ITIL processes in there, so they will provide the basics for an holistic view that we'll have on ITIL 4. And when I say holistic view, I'm talking like an end-to-end operating model. So we are also, another thing that we always hear from some customers, some clients and users is how siloed it can be, depending if a company or if a professional tries to follow ITIL as a prescriptive solution. And we're trying to get rid of these. Like, we're trying to show how it's an end-to-end operating module. So you're providing value to your customer, and there are different ways of doing that. It's not necessarily like a flow, a sequence that you need to follow every time in the same way. So this will be something really interesting as well, the way the framework will be flexible and will be structured in order to allow this use, let's say, of the knowledge, of the concepts, of the practices, and etc. Another key thing is the continual improvement everywhere. As you know, in the life cycle stages, we have continual improvement. Obviously, it's applicable everywhere, but this will be really, really explicit as well in the new framework as a key element of the service management and IT service management, and a flexible value flow. So as I was saying, the thing about creating value through services, through IT-enabled services in different ways, not necessarily in a sequence. And the guiding principles, as I mentioned, it will be core for ITIL 4. So for those who had the chance to take ITIL practitioner or who are familiar with, they will recognize these guiding principles from there, and they will guide a series of like cultural elements and people elements that are directly connected to the business strategy, to the IT strategy, and should be at the core of the service provision.
So before I move on to the questions on the screen, we did get one come in through the chat that they wanted to know if we could talk, or if you could talk a little bit about the prerequisites for an ITIL Foundation student. What would that person look like?
Prerequisites for someone to take ITIL Foundation. So ITIL Foundation is the entry level of the certification scheme, and therefore there's no prerequisites. So ITIL Foundation would provide relevant knowledge for anyone who is interested on service management to get the fundamentals of service management, and would be a starting point for those who are aiming upper levels within the scheme, for those who are looking for practical and more like application knowledge, let's say, that they can find in the next levels.
Great. And so for to the questions on the screen, I think this was our second most popular question. When is the exam going to become available?
Yeah. So I have the current answer is ITIL V3 Foundation is going to be launched in the first quarter of 2019. So we're pretty close. And the second thing that I can say is that before the end of this month, we will provide the exact date on when the exams are going to be available within the first quarter of 2019. So these I'm talking about ITIL Foundation. As you can see on the screen now, we have some rough dates as well for the further levels. So ITIL Managing Professional and ITIL Strategic Leader that I will explain now, they will be launching on the second half of next year, 2019.
So Hagar, I think I can speak for everyone on the webinar that we keep it secret if you want to tell us the exact date now as to when the exam will be released.
Will you?
We will. Right, everyone? We all promise.
Yeah, we were having this conversation, and I wish we could release it right now, but it's going to happen in a very short time. So before the end of the month, I think it's going to be really soon. But we need to follow all the steps internally, of course, before we can announce it.
All right. Well, we want you to keep your job too, so I guess it's okay.
Yes.
So a couple of questions came in that I want to ask right now. One is, what is the ITIL lifespan for each version? And I mean, when is the next version to be scheduled for? So I think he's asking about sort of those middle row of courses, which we see are going to be available in the second half of 2019.
Okay. Yeah, so when we say second half of 2019, we are talking about the whole set. So the idea, for example, ITIL Managing Professional, actually, I think it's good since we have the certification scheme on the screen. I think I will start talking about it, and then I can answer the question while I go through it. So this image represents the new certification scheme, the ITIL 4 one. So as you see, we have ITIL Foundation as the entry level for the scheme, and then we have two streams, as we can call it. The stream on the left is the ITIL Managing Professional. So this designation is comprised of 4 modules. The first one is the ITIL Specialist designation in Create, Deliver, and Support. The second one is the ITIL Specialist Drive Stakeholder Value. Third one, ITIL Specialist High Velocity IT. And the fourth one, ITIL Strategies Direct Plan and Improve. So altogether, they comprise what we call the ITIL Managing Professional. For someone who completes the 4 modules, automatically they get the designation on the blue box, the ITIL Managing Professional. For those modules, the intention is to launch them all together. So it's not like a staged or a phased launch. They will be all coming together on the second half of 2019. On the right side, the other stream is the ITIL Strategic Leader stream. So this is completely new if we compare to the current scheme. We have the same module that you have on the left, which is the ITIL Strategies Direct Plan and Improve, what we're calling the universal module because it's part of both streams. And you have an additional module that is called ITIL Leader Digital and IT Strategy. So this is more about IT strategy, how IT impacts the business strategy, all the digital transformation journey and the challenges that leaders and heads of departments they are facing. So we are targeting here people who are actually providing inputs and driving the business or the IT strategy within their companies, something that we don't cover currently in the ITIL V3 scheme. So really interesting content here as well. And for those who are aiming to become ITIL Master one day, for you to be eligible to an ITIL Master designation, you would need to complete both streams and then go through an assessment that will provide more details in the first quarter of next year. So basically, this is the new certification scheme. On the left, a lot of in-depth content on those areas. So the first one, if I can go back again, so we have create, deliver, and support. We are talking about creating services, creating products, delivering and providing support. So an end-to-end IT operating model. So how do you go like from designing, from creating, then delivering and supporting a service or product. The second one, the drive stakeholder value, we were talking more about like engaging with stakeholder, driving demand until you provide value and create value with your customer for your products and services. And high velocity IT, which has a strong element on new ways of working, new technologies, how an organization who works in a high velocity environment is different from one who works in a traditional, let's say, environment for value creation and service provision. So very interesting as well. And then the universal module, which is the direct plan and improve. It's more about like providing strategy to this IT service provision, and also a strong element on planning and continual improvement as well. And this is why it's the universal module is like really key on both streams. It's required for both streams.
So we're getting a couple different questions coming in. We've got a couple of questions around ITIL Expert. We don't see that in the new scheme. Is Expert versus Master taking the place of Expert, or can you just speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, the Expert is not there as a designation anymore. So what is ITIL managing professional is also a combination of knowledge from different areas of IT service management and service management as well. I don't like to compare like saying this is the new expert, because as you can see, there is a difference on the scheme itself. Currently, for you to become an expert, you need 17 credits from the current scheme, and these 17 credits, they could come from different life cycle stages or different capability modules. And then you have the mock exam, which is universal for anyone who wants to become an expert. So this is the path for you to become an expert. And for ITIL managing professional, the path is completing these 4 modules that comprise ITIL managing professional. So I would compare them, let's say, in terms of, let's say, seniority and the fact that you're covering a wide range of knowledge and practical knowledge within the ITIL scheme, but obviously they are composed by different elements.
Great. And one more question, well, many more questions that are coming in, but one that will help us on this slide. There was a question on how many days of training the managing professional stream will be. Do we know that yet?
The managing professional details, we are going to provide them on the first quarter of next year. So this information has not been released yet.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to our next question. You had mentioned on this slide that is the launch dates for the English version. Is this course going to have an exam in Spanish?
Yes, so all the dates that I've mentioned so far, as you said, they refer to the English version. Spanish is going to be among the first round of languages that we're going to translate, and the date for the launch of ITIL V3 Foundation in Spanish is going to be announced together with the launch of ITIL V3 Foundation in English. So expect to know the date on the first quarter of 2019. Okay. But it's a yes for this question.
Okay, good. Thank you. A lot of the other questions relate to this next one that the questions that are coming in live relate to this question that we got earlier, is what is the bridge for people with existing ITIL training and or certifications?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, this one we can relate to the expert question. So as you can see, because on how ITIL 4 is evolving, and because we have like new concepts, new contents to cover at foundation level, there's not a direct transition from Foundation V3 to ITIL 4 Foundation. The transition that we have from the current scheme to the new scheme is at the managing professional level. So what someone who wants to move to the new scheme, what they need to do basically is they have one option, which is take ITIL 4 Foundation from the beginning, and then they can choose what makes sense for them, if it's to go all over up the ladder, or to pick one of the modules that make more sense depending on their role and their business, or they have the option to get the same 17 credits that they need currently to take the MOOC, and then instead of taking the MOOC, they take the managing professional transition that we can see in this image. So the same criteria, 17 credits from the current scheme. And then if you have 17 credits, instead of taking the MOOC to become an expert, you can take the managing professional transition and then become an ITIL managing professional in the new scheme. So these are the two ways of moving to the new scheme and getting up to date to the new concepts. Once you become an ITIL managing professional, since I've mentioned before that we have an universal module on both streams, that means that you need to take one extra module, which is the ITIL Leader Digital and IT Strategy on the right side, if you want to pursue the ITIL Strategic Leader designation as well.
Great, thank you. So another question was, do you suggest taking the ITIL V3 test now or waiting until the ITIL 4 comes out?
Yeah, I've been attending a lot of conferences recently, and this is one of the most popular questions that I'm answering. And the short answer is not very exciting because it depends. It depends on your job.
It depends. Yes. More details than that.
Yeah, I will explain, and hopefully it's going to be more useful. But it depends on your job role. It depends on what is your goal on taking ITIL. So I had interesting conversations with companies out there in different countries and etc. And they told me that they will keep sending people to the current virtual training because this is the knowledge that they want for the moment, in order to make sure that they are aligned to the processes that they have inside, to the procedures. So they feel like the transition doesn't need to be done in a rush because there is internal things that they want to check and change in the due time. And there is the other side, like if you're looking for knowledge, if you're looking to the most up-to-date content within the framework and you want to anticipate that, so ITIL 4 would be the way in terms of certification. And then there is also, we just covered the certification scheme, and I've just covered the transition as well. It depends on your personal goal in terms of career and what do you want to achieve in terms of certifications. So if you want to make the transition through the ITIL MP level, so it means that you should continue collecting credits to the point you get 17 credits. And on the second half of next year, when you have the transition available, if you have 17 credits, you can take the transition instead of taking ITIL 4 and then waiting for the other modules to do all the way up through the ITIL 4 modules. So it really depends on what your goals. It really depends on how urgent is the knowledge that you're looking for in order to solve the challenges you have on your business, on your job, on your day-to-day job, because then ITIL V3 definitely provides relevant knowledge as it is, and practical knowledge as well on the intermediates. We've just covered on the beginning of the presentation how much guidance they provide on processes, on different stages of life cycle, service operations, and all the others. So For some business, you cannot wait in order to solve the challenges and tackle the challenges you have, and therefore you need training, you need knowledge. And in other cases, if like you're looking for what is new, I want to learn the new concepts, then ITIL 4 is really interesting and probably the way to go.
Okay, so that would be for someone who's only had foundations.
Yes.
Taking some more.
Yeah, here we have the some sort of personas, right? I think before that we have the foundation one. So someone who is ITIL V3 Foundation, they have the option to take ITIL 4 Foundation, just because we are going to have one single exam for ITIL 4 Foundation to make sure that we cover all the concepts. It wouldn't make sense to have a bridge, since you need to cover all the differences, and the decision was to have one ITIL 4 Foundation exam. They always have the option to collect credits. This is important to say. Regardless your level, if you feel like collecting the 17 credits and take the ITIL MP transition, you can do that. So this would be the foundation. This screen now that we're seeing, we are talking about someone who has the ITIL V3 Intermediate or practitioner, but they have one module of the intermediates, or one capability, or one service life cycle, or they have the practitioner, which would give them 3 or 4 credits, depending on the module that they have, plus 2 from foundation. So that means they have 5 to 6 credits in total. For these ones, they have 2 options. One is basically, I don't want to get to the ITIL MP level. It's not on my plan. It's not my goal. So I can take ITIL 4 Foundation and then invest on something that is more appropriate to my day-to-day job, that makes more sense for me. So they could go for ITIL Foundation, and let's say if they're after new ways of working and new technologies, they would probably go for high velocity IT straight away. If they're looking for knowledge on continual improvement, a little bit of strategy, they would probably go to the universal module, and then it would depend on each case. The second option would be collecting the credits in the current scheme. So they could do that through the practitioner, through the intermediates, and by the time they get the 17 credits, they are in the position of taking the ITIL MP transition to the new scheme. Then if we go to the next screen, we have the same profile, but in this case, someone who has more credits. So someone who has taken two intermediates, or one practitioner plus one intermediate. So they have more credits. We would really emphasize this type of candidate to keep collecting credits and make the transition through the ITIL MP transition, because they are closer in terms of number of credits. And this would be the recommended approach. They always have the option, if that doesn't make sense, it's not appealing for them, they always have the option to take ITIL 4 Foundation, go back, take ITIL 4 Foundation, and then pick 1 or 2 or how many modules they think are relevant for them at that stage of their career, or according to their personal goals. If we go further to the next screen, we have some interesting content here about how the intermediate modules would be useful for those who are up to collect 17 credits and then taking the transition. So the knowledge that is covered on the intermediates in terms of processes, principles, and the activities that we have in the service life cycle and the capability modules, they will provide knowledge that will be there in ITIL 4 as well. So some of the content, they will make it easier, this comprehension of ITIL 4. Also, I've mentioned that for those who need knowledge to tackle their day-to-day challenges, to perform better their jobs, is also something that provides relevant knowledge. So ITIL V3 currently, it's a good way to go as well for those people who need to be equipped in order to perform better and to do better their jobs. Another thing is the ITIL practitioner specifically. So as we've seen before, the guiding principles, they are a core element of ITIL 4. So therefore, ITIL practitioner, despite the fact that you see it's not there anymore as a separate certification, but it will be there. The content that is really good and relevant, it will be there on ITIL 4, starting in foundation including. So guiding principles will be a really key element for ITIL 4. And also, of course, like those modules, the intermediate ones, they will provide credits for those who are looking to take the ITIL managing professional transition.
Great, thank you. And then one more on the experts, which I think we covered a little bit already.
We did, yeah. So the experts, they are ready to take the transition, basically. So once the transition is available, is launched on the second half of next year, 2019, the experts, they can take straight away the transition in order to move to ITIL 4. And by taking the transition, as I said, they are just one module away from the ITIL strategic leader designation. So something that might be interesting as well for the experts, for the current experts.
Great. So I'm assuming then any of the V3 foundations are still going to remain valid, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So ITIL, as it is something that doesn't expire. So those who have, for example, certifications from the V2, they are valid. It's not something that you have an expiry date. And this is the same case with ITIL V3. So Axelus is not taking away these certifications for those who have achieved them. Obviously, we will cover these as well. The ITIL V3 scheme at some point will need to be discontinued. And this period, so the earliest date for us to discontinue ITIL V3 will be June 2020, no earlier than that, and possibly later than that, but no earlier than June 2020. So until that time, both versions, they will coexist. And then therefore there is enough time for candidates and companies to plan properly how they want to make this transition, how they want to plan and prepare their employees or themselves in order to move to the new scheme.
So I thought this was an interesting question that came in from Victor. Will the exams keep the same format as the V3 in regards to foundation and intermediate?
Yeah, so for foundation, I can say yes. It's the first level that we're launching in Q1 2019. And then intermediates, they're not directly comparable to the new modules, and we will be providing more information in Q1 2019. But for foundation, I can confirm as we speak that the format will be kept the same.
So the 40 multiple choice questions.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And this one you alluded to before, but we did have people wanting to know exactly when the existing exam is going to expire.
Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned, so the earliest date for discontinuing ITIL V3 will be June 2020. And this will be the earliest, and potentially could be later than that. So what we're trying to provide here is like a decent time for people, for companies to plan how they want to do the transition, what makes more sense for them and for their employees as well.
Do you think that, and I don't know, maybe you can't answer this, but when the date is announced for discontinuing, do you think it will be all these 3 exams, or do you think it will be staggered with foundation and the intermediates and so on?
No, it will be for all of them.
Okay. So then we got some additional questions on when the courseware will be ready. And I'll take that one. Our goal for Logical Operations is to have the courseware available and accredited when the exam is released. So when we have that information by the end of the month, we will be having a more effective as well that will be able to have that available for you. We are committed to make as many resources available early for your instructors to begin prepping from, including, draft outlines, sample chapters, anything that we have, slide decks, things along those lines as they become available. We want to make sure that you have them and that your trainers have time to be able to use them and get used to it. The other kind of exciting thing relating to courseware that I can announce is that the cost of our courseware is going to be in that 80 to 90 US dollar range, depending on if it's print or digital or digital only. So those options are going to remain the same as they are now. Another question that we got is, will the foundation's curriculum be similar to the existing V3, or will there be more material? So we are going to design that in the choice framework, which most of you are probably familiar with, as most of our content is. The course will be 2 days of training or 12 content hours, so that is a change. Hagar, do you have any thoughts or any comments on it going from 3 days of training to 2 days of training?
Yeah, what we say on this one, which is another very popular question, this is the recommended duration. It doesn't mean that it's the only duration possible. So this is what we have tested through alpha sessions and also with SMEs input, that it was a reasonable time for delivering the content. Obviously, the companies delivering training, they have flexibility as they had before in order to have different offerings and maybe adding things or removing things. But this is what we feel like a recommended duration for delivering the training.
Great. And that's true for logical operations as well. So even though the book will be coming out as a 2 days of training or 12 hours of training, how each individual training center or organizations deliver it is going to be up to them. So if they wanted to take that additional day, do some review, and then schedule exams, that would be certainly possible, and something, if they're comfortable doing, then we would encourage them to continue doing. Some of the additional resources that will come with the courseware are going to be white papers and sample exams and things that you're used to having now with the V3 version of the content. We also got this question from Al about whether or not there'll be a train the trainer available for ITIL Foundation 4. And I am really excited to announce that yes, there will be one. Logical Operations is planning on hosting that and having that available to our customers and to any new potential customers. You'll be able to attend virtually or in person, and more details on that are to come, so keep an eye on your email. And my contact information will be at the end as well. You can always ask me, and I will get that information to you as well. Before I move on, though, we did have a couple questions come in that I think might fit here well. We had a question about if what an existing trainer would need to do to be certified to teach the ITIL Foundation's course. And correct me if I'm wrong, Hagar, but if they're an existing accredited trainer with PeopleCert, the only thing they would need to do is to take the new foundation exam. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. And if they are new to this, they would need to hold the exam, the new Foundation 4 exam, and then the 6 credits from additional life cycles, just as it sits now for the V3.
That's correct as well.
Great. Good thing I got that down. So we did get another question coming in on kind of more the logistics side of things from Jeff. Wanted to know what they would need to do to teach an accredited ITIL class. And this is a very simplified slide for what you need to do, but essentially there needs to be 3 components to it. Your organization needs to become accredited, and that's something that Logical Operations can help you do. We are an ATO, or an authorized training organization, with PeopleCert, and we have the ability to have affiliates under our umbrella. Becoming an affiliate would check that box for you. It would make you an accredited training organization. The second component would be that you have an accredited trainer. So we talked a little bit about that with what the trainer would need to, the certificates the trainer would need to hold. So they would need to hold the foundation exam, as well as 6 additional credits from the existing intermediate or practitioner courses. And then you would need to use accredited content, which logical operations will have. Our existing content for the full ITIL portfolio is accredited, as well as the new course that will be created for the ITIL Foundation 4 will become accredited also. I will also mention that if you are an ATO yourself and you're looking just for that accredited content, we're happy to work with you as well. So if you maybe wrote your own book already and you're not planning on writing the new ITIL 4, we could talk to you about that process and using our content to meet that third requirement under your own ATO status. So that is an option as well. So I think that is all the prepared slides. Vanessa, has any additional questions come in?
Yes, so we just got a new question a couple minutes ago asking about exam costs for the ITIL 4 Foundation.
So Hagar, I haven't heard officially from PeopleCert that they are not changing, but I am assuming that the existing pricing is going to stay the same. Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, the informations of pricing, they will come from PeopleCert. Yeah, it's not like a decision from Maxilos.
Okay, so I do know that for the version 3 foundation exam, just for people's knowledge, that pricing will not change into 2019. The existing price list is valid for that. They would have the option to create a new price for the foundation ITIL 4 foundation course. So we haven't heard that officially. As soon as we do, we'll make sure that all of our customers are notified with that information. Anything else, Vanessa?
I think we're up to date on all of the questions that have come in.
Wow.
But if you feel that we've missed anything, we'll of course be on the line for just a couple of minutes here. If you'd like to submit anything now, or if you think of something after the fact, please feel free to let us know. Here's a slide with Amanda's contact information, and feel free to reach out to her with any questions.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to talk with you and loop in your account rep if you have one already. If not, I'll make sure that you get introduced to them and we can answer any of the questions that you have from there. We do have a page on our website where we are keeping things up to date with information. We'll send that link out along with the copy of this recording so that you can keep tabs on information that we release there.
We do have a new question that just came in. Can you explain more on the option that if we are an ATO, we can help in accrediting the ITIL 4 material?
So it's not that we would accredit it, it would be that you could then license our accredited content for your use. So when you become an ATO, as well as an affiliate, part of that process is to let PeopleCert know which accredited courseware you're going to use. And we can assist you, or I can assist you with the paperwork that would be needed for you to say that you're going to be using the logical operations content to meet that qualification.
Great, thanks, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And just a couple comments about people asking recording slides. The answer to that is yes. As Amanda mentioned, we'll have a follow-up email with the recording slides and some other useful information for you.
Anything else? We good? All right, Hagar, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you're jumping onto another webinar or something very exciting and important, maybe picking the date as to when the exam will be released. And I'll let you be able to get back to your day. So thank you so much for taking the time, and for all of the attendees, thank you for all of your questions. We really appreciated it. Hopefully they all got answered. If not, email me and I'll make sure that we get an answer to you. If we know the answer, we'll make sure that we get it to you. If you have anything else that you want to submit in the next few final moments, feel free to. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting, and thanks everyone for your time.
Thanks, everyone.